Will, you carry all of us with you.
Dad, I can't kill dragons. I'm a Viking. I'm a Viking! It's okay.
Welcome back, everyone. The trailer for House the Dragon was released. I mean, How to Train Your Dragon. Everybody will remember House the Dragon Season 2 because they did the red sewing. It was more like How Your Dragon Trains You this time. Still people getting eaten, but not quite in the same way that we saw during House the Dragon, like not crispy chicken KFC delivery to the dragons. This new live-action version of the movie seems like it's going to be a shot-for-shot remake for the most part of the animated How to Train Your Dragon movies. So we'll break it all down for the most part. The trailer looks exactly the same, just the scenes that they picked to put in this first trailer. John Powell seems like he's back doing the music again, like they use a lot of the same theme music from the original animated How to Train Your Dragon movies. And even though I do think that Jay Baruchel is going to have some sort of cameo scene in this new live-action trilogy, is they remake the animated movies. Gerard Butler is back as the stoic character that he played in the animated movies. So at least some of the animated actors are back to do the live-action versions, their characters. But Gerard Butler is like a really big actor. Jay Baruchel probably would have played Hiccup. But Hiccup is meant to be 15 years old during this movie, and Jay Baruchel obviously not 15 years old anymore. So we will see what his cameo scene winds up looking like in the movies. The actor who's playing the live-action version of Hiccup in these movies is Mason Thames. I'm not really familiar with his stuff before, but you might recognize him from somewhere recently, just starting at the beginning of the trailer footage here. So they show him at the very beginning of the story, before he's really figured out what he's going to do with life. Because the whole idea is that he doesn't want to hunt dragons like his father and his people on Berk. The whole idea is that their island of Vikings hunts dragons. That their big thing, a lot of the commerce in this part of the world within How to Train Your Dragon is built on hunting dragons and selling their parts. So the whole idea is he's sort of like the odd man out, doesn't really know how he fits into their society, but because his father Stoic is the chieftain, he's meant to be like the strongest, best, baddest Viking they have. We get our first shot of Gerard Butler as live-action Stoic, getting ready to go on a mission. This is him attacking a nest of dragons, getting ready to rouse some, out they can hunt them. He mentions his family's axe that he plans to pass to Hiccup, basically teaching him the ways of their people. This is shot of their training arena. This is probably from him through the movie there, a couple different scenes of him basically practicing how to train dragons. This the title of the movie, How to Train Your Dragon. But the whole twist on it here is that he's been working an apprenticeship with Gobber the village blacksmith to create special bolas to bring down dragons, which he uses to bring down the Night Fury Toothless. So before he does that, everybody on the island thinks he's kind of a joke and makes fun of him. Most of the time he winds up using his new tool that he created with Gobber to bring down the Night Fury, and tries to prove it to everyone by finding him. But when he finds Toothless, he spares him, and then Toothless spares him. And it begins their friendship, and in him slowly learning more and more about Toothless, he learns how to actually train the dragons and subdue them. So, in the arena here, where everybody expects him to get his ass handed to him, he quickly subdues the dragon and everybody gets really suspicious of him. They don't show the live-action version of Astrid here, but she's the one that starts poking into how he learned to subdue the dragon so quickly, because she's meant to be the badass of the two of them. He eventually creates the special mechanical fin to help replace part of the fin that Toothless lost, so that he can fly again. And eventually they pay that off at the end of the movie, where Hiccup's story parallels Toothless' story, and he winds up losing his leg, and Gobber helps make him a mechanical prosthetic leg. So the whole idea of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise is that Toothless' story, like the Night Fury's storyline and Hiccup's storyline, are meant to parallel each other's through each of the movies. Basically, each of them learning about what dragons and people are like going to coexist, and Hiccup and the Vikings of Berk help save the dragons. They learn more about the lore of the dragons. And eventually, by the final film, Hiccup has learned to become the chieftain of his people, replacing his father as chieftain. And Toothless has become the true alpha of dragons. All dragons in the world, leading them back to the hidden world. So is my expectation for these live-action movies is they will just do a trilogy of live-action movies to parallel the animated movies They could always split some other movies down the road, just depends on how they want to do them. But for the most part, I'm just assuming parity with the animated movies, and it'll be 1-to-1. So 3 live-action movies, all these scenes of him talking to his father, Stoic, are basically at the beginning of the movie, was trying to explain him why he's so crap at training dragons. Like, I'm terrible at this. I don't know how to do it. Which eventually leads him to create his mechanical device for taking down dragons, which he winds up using inadvertently on Toothless. This is meant to be the dragon's nest that you see Stoic attacking earlier in the trailer, which is led by the Red Death, who's like the main alpha of this movie, that the main villain that they all team up to face using Toothless and Hiccup to take him down. Basically, it's them eventually learning that the smaller dragons here have been forced to serve the larger alpha Red Death dragon. So the big twist the movie is the dragons themselves, like the smaller dragons, are not evil. They just been forced to serve the larger evil dragon. So once they get rid of the larger evil dragon, they're just as happy to live with the other people of Berk. But they basically use this first trailer to show them meeting for the first time, in him learning that Toothless doesn't actually want to get like, all dragons are evil. They can be good. Generally the visual effects on Toothless look pretty solid. Like, special effects have advanced greatly since this first movie came out more than 10 years ago. And even though they just briefly showed their first meeting from the animated movies during this, in generally the way they portray Toothless and the other good dragons is dogs, as opposed to say like How to Train Your Dragon or the Game of Thrones movies, which portray their dragons, is being a little bit more like cats, like a little more standoffish, as opposed to Toothless, who acts a little bit more like a dog. Like, part of the whole idea, the franchise How to Train Your Dragon, is how to train your dog with all the dragons. Toothless included being kind of like nice puppies. They touch for the first time. He realizes what's actually going on with Toothless. Like, all this actually good. We actually become friends. And they play the theme music from the animated How to Train Your Dragon movies. They haven't said much about their larger plans for this live-action version, the franchise. But assuming everything goes to plan and it does well, this comes out next summer, they'll probably just release the sequels every 2 years or so, just because it's typically how long it takes them to get a movie out when they know more about what they're doing. And because so much of this is based on the template of the animated movies, is a little bit easier for them to actually make it through production on all the films like that. I'm making up the sequels whole cloth as they go along. But like a lot of the live-action Disney remakes, which basically this is like the energy of the live-action Disney remakes. So depending on how you like live-action remakes, will tune your enjoyment for this. Typically in those live-action Disney remakes, they add a lot of material that was not in the original animated versions, especially like an expanded version, because the animated movies tend to be a little bit shorter. Compared to live-action movies, we'll probably see moments during this movie that were not in the original How to Train Your Dragon. Generally, the whole arc of the movie is them learning about the Red Death, him being the big villain attacking Berk with the smaller dragons, then Hiccup and Toothless convincing all the other Vikings on Berk that the dragons can be helpful. They can be good when Toothless protects Hiccup from being killed by the Red Death. Will probably do when they release the next big longer trailer, is we'll see more. The actual live-action versions of the characters will probably get some teasers for the live-action version. The Red Death just using house. The dragon is a comparison for like the size of dragons relative to people within the world of How to Train Your Dragon. Most of them are meant to be on the smaller side. Probably one of the best examples would be like Bermax. Jace's dragon, where like the Red Death would be more like they are like really massive dragon by comparison to the others. But the way they portrayed the Red Death in animation is that it was even bigger than that. Like, the disparity between the Red Death and the smaller dragons was even bigger than Vagar in the smaller dragons on House. The dragon, big old grumpy grandma dragon, and on How to Train Your Dragon. The Red Death is meant to be a male dragon. Other big difference to they might tease a little bit more. The lore of the dragons a little bit later in the movie. To set up the sequels as well, because the whole idea the sequel is that they learn about Hiccup's mother, what happened, or she didn't die. She actually started to protect dragons, and the big alpha dragon enemy of that movie winds up being the bewilder bees that they defeat, saving that group of dragons from it to in. By the third movie, eventually learning about the hidden world, the place where all dragons came from, their ancestral home. So they use all the movies in the trilogy sort of tease out the entire lore of all dragons in the world of How to Train Your Dragon. But there's a bunch of stuff going on here. Everybody post all your reactions to all the live action footage in the comments below. So far it looks like it's gonna be okay. At least on a visual level we'll see how the storytelling is. We actually get that next really big trailer, but it's not coming out till next summer. So it's probably going to be around the Super Bowl by the time we get that next really big trailer. Funny enough, I did like one video, I think maybe only just a single video for the original animated How to Train Your Dragon movies, just based on when my channel was created, and when all the movies fell during the timeline that first movie came out in 2010. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss anything. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next one.